Well, hello there as I get my camera and everything set up, and hopefully you guys can see and hear. My name is Alan C. Paul. I'm the founder and creator of God and Gigs, and this is our Creative Checkup. I decided to go ahead and jump in because I haven't done this on Fridays in a minute. It is a exact opposite of what I try to do when it comes to being consistent. I talk about being consistent all the time, and yet I wasn't in this case. In my Instagram feed here, you can see like there's all this space in between me and the top of the ceiling. But oh well, I guess that's the way it's going to be today, as I didn't really prepare in advance. I just decided to go live, get into a creative checkup to help you to build a better creative life from the inside out by applying these timeless spiritual principles with temporary creative problems. So if you're following me on Instagram, I see Melissa. Hello, Melissa Vargas, an amazing creative, is already in the building. Hope you can hang out with us for a little bit, Melissa. We haven't talked in forever, but I am so impressed by what you've been doing and so happy that she is a fellow Christian creative. And anybody watching here, I also see a couple of people here on our YouTube and or Facebook. So this is really cool. I jumped in, didn't take a big amount of time to get ready. I know what I'd love to talk about, but I'd love to talk about what you want to talk about. So if you have a comment about being a creative, being a Christian creative, faith focused creative, how to connect the dots between your spiritual life and the creative life, feel free. This is a open Q&A. I do have a topic to talk about, but this is really more where I can kind of open up the door to anyone that has a question. And just to tell you a little bit, in case you're watching for the first time, I am an author, creator of these books behind me, God and Gigs, Succeed as a Musician Without Sacrificing Your Faith, and our devotional, Your Art, God's Heart, which helps you to, again, connect your spiritual life with your creative life. I'm a musician, a coach, creative coach, and author. And I've been doing this for about 25 years, and been podcasting for 4 years and an author for 5 years. So that's kind of like what I do. Worked with lots of musicians and creators all over the world. And now I get to do this. So that's kind of like where we are coming from today. So I hope you'll be hanging out for another 25 minutes or so. We won't spend a long time today, but I would love to talk about decision making. So as I figure out whether I'm not looking at the right camera here, is always kind of weird when I'm looking around. I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing. Decision making is our discussion today. If you've been a creative for any amount of time, you know that you come to forks in the road all the time when it comes to which direction to go, what decision to make in terms of your artistic direction, creative decisions. Release this now, release this later, write this song now, write this, work with this person now, work with this other person. This person has a contract, but this other person is a better opportunity. There's so many places in which we can get caught up in what decisions to make and whether to make them. And so I really want to make sure that I share my ideas and how I've been able to make decisions and how you can make better decisions so that you are always making the decisions that make an impact and make the biggest impact and effective impact on your career so you can move in the direction that God is taking you. Here's the key of that. You cannot make decisions about your creative career without knowing what and why and how to make those decisions. So let's first start with the why. If you don't know why you are trying to make a certain decision, and by the way, I'm talking about things like, let's see, make sure we have the chat here just in case. Yeah, go. So if you're making a decision right now, if there's anything, by the way, that you've ever faced where you've had to make a hard decision about your creative career, put it in the chat. If you've ever had to face, okay, do I keep this job? Do I leave this job? Do I start this band, or do I, stick with what I have with this other corporate gig I have, that corporate band that I'm doing? Do I have to make a decision between changing genres, writing music more from a certain genre, or maybe I'm deciding between just what school to go to in terms of I'm going to go to a music school, if I'm going to take, there's so many things you can see. I can just go on and on with all the decisions that we have to make as creatives, all the way down to what do I write next? What do I create next? So this is a topic I know faces everyone. And I tell the story in my book about how I had to face a decision on whether or not I was going to tour with a famous soul singer. I never really got the audition, but here's the thing. I didn't even take a chance at the audition. I kind of just whiffed on it and didn't even try to get the audition with this famous singer. And the reason that I didn't take that opportunity was because I had a baby on the way and I was newly married. And I just knew that no matter how great that opportunity was, if I had taken that decision, if I had made that decision to go for that opportunity at that time, it would not have been pretty. It would have distracted me from my new baby that was coming. I just didn't have the bandwidth. I didn't have the time. It just would not have worked. And I want to tell you that the reason why that was such an easy decision for me was because I knew my priorities. At that time, and still, my priority is my family. Now, I've messed that up more times than I can count in terms of making sure that I actually act on my priorities, but I'm trying to get better at that and always trying to make decisions based on what is the most important thing right now to me and where are my decisions lining up with those priorities. Because if they're not, I'm really not making the right choice and I'm really kind of just grasping at straws when it comes to making the right decisions. And so I want to help you make your priorities consistent with your daily decisions. So that's really how I want to take this. And so, how do you really determine your priorities? How do you determine your priorities? How do you establish your priorities? Well, this goes along with our podcast that I just released. Excuse me. We released a podcast on Thursday, basically about this, and it's from our book, The Seven Service Steps Inside the Book. And E stands for establishing priorities in the Enneagram service. And one of the things I talk about is really being able to get back to the core of who you are, what's important to you, who you really, and what things drive you. So in my case, it was family. Family has driven 99.9% of my decisions. And every time that I've had a choice, I've always gone back to, okay, well, how will this affect my family? And that's been the biggest determining factor in terms of first my faith and then my family. But then after that, of course, I have to decide, all right, artistically speaking, what decision will line up with who I am artistically? And if I am not careful, I will be swayed by the size of an opportunity, and something that looks like a great opportunity will turn into something that will actually damage me or mess up my family or mess up my brand at the end because I aimed at the opportunity instead of looking at my foundation. Who am I really? I'll give a perfect example right now. There's actually a podcast that I'm considering being on, and I got an invitation to be on it. And I took a look, and the gentleman is, I mean, he's got a pretty big following, and he seems to be like, flowing like the business space. But something about it just didn't feel right. And I keep looking, and I keep saying, this is not me. This is not my brand. This is not God and Gigs. This is more business. This is more someone that's like out there trying to be a high roller, big baller. I don't know what the term is, right? But he's not into what I'm into. Now, could I get in front of more people by being on his show? Probably. I probably could increase my, exposure, I guess, by being on different business type shows where people might see me in a different light, more like a business person than just a creative entrepreneur. Tobias, by the way, good to see you, brother. I see you right there. Thanks so much for joining me, man. Good to see you. And anybody else that's joining us again on Instagram. We're on 4 different platforms today, or 3 different platforms. So my point is, I'm basically about to say no to this, even though I immediately, in the first, I pursued it. And I'm wondering if any of you, Tobias, or anybody else, have you ever come to a decision where you're like, wait, I'm about to make this decision, but this is not me. I feel that this is not who I am. I feel this does not link up with who I am. And if I do this, I'm basically doing it just because for the money or for the exposure or because it makes me feel good. And I'm going to be talking next week, kind of like to give you a preview, a sneak peek of our interview we're about to do. It's coming up on Thursday with author Jordan Rayners, one of the godfathers I call of God and Gigs. He's one of my mentors when I follow him virtually and pretty much consume everything. We got to interview him last year with his last book, and now we're interviewing him with his new book coming up, Redeeming the Time. And he says something in this book. You got to go get it, by the way. Go to jordanrayner.com if you want to check that out. Hey, Miss Ingrid B joining us on Instagram. We're just talking about decisions, talking about making the right choices, talking about how we decide what to prioritize. One of our creative checkups. Good to see you, great friend of mine and business partner, and always putting the best of South Florida's and the nation's, really internationally, poets and musicians and independent artists and soul singers. She's just on it. Thank you so much for joining me. Yes, that's right. We have to stick together. I can't wait to be performed with her. One of her shows with Rhonda Thomas, but that's beside the point. I'm getting crossed up now. See, I went musician for a second there. So quickly, priorities have to be based on who you are. And anytime if you face this decision that you said, this is not me, I haven't decided who I am. If you can't decide who you are on the inside and who you represent and how you want to represent your brand, every opportunity, and I was mentioning Jordan Rayner before I got off track. Jordan Rayner has this book where he talks about, is this an opportunity that's really going to grow my brand and help me represent God better? Or is this something to make me feel good? Is it a good decision or does it make me feel good? Is it really to build my brand and build up who I am in terms of an actual business move or a creative move that helps me? Or is it something that just kind of like makes my ego, because I feel like I've made it because I show up in this room. I feel like I've made it if I have this person on the credits. I feel like I've achieved, I've made some kind of, statement to the world because I got on this record. But that record may not be you. That opportunity may not be you. It may not be what God designed for you, but it makes you feel good. And you mix up those two things with I feel good versus it is good and it feels good, so it must be God, or it's a great opportunity, so it must be God. Yet and still it doesn't really react or it doesn't really blend with who you are. Okay. And I want to make sure that I encourage you in this little creative checkup to always check who you are with your priorities and then make your decisions based on those priorities versus the size of the opportunity. And as I mentioned, that interview with Jordan Rayner is going to come out next Thursday. The book comes out, I think, Monday or Tuesday. So check out the book, jordanrayner.com. Will highly recommend it. It's all about time management and how to make these decisions. So let me type that in here, at least on Facebook and Insta and YouTube, so you guys can see it. Okay. And so check that out as far as that book. Now, let me finally put this in to where you are. What decisions are facing you right now? What decisions are you facing, I should say? Where are you kind of like saying, all right, I want to move this direction, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I should go A or B, where to go. Well, one thing I've looked up that I really love this idea is a decision tree. How many of you heard of decision tree? Ingrid, if you heard of a decision tree, I haven't heard of this except in corporate spaces. But I want to check this out more, and I'm actually kind of like starting to start looking it into it. Okay, got you. Venue now or later. Ingrid says venue now or later. So decision tree is basically this. I'm not a project manager or anyone like that, and I'm not usually thinking like this, but I have a concept of this already, and then I saw that it's actually a corporate thing. A decision tree is basically where you start to basically make a flow chart of the probability and the ability to make your next move, and you basically map it out. You basically write down, okay, yes or no, right? So Ingrid, for you, venue now or later. So you just make a tree, venue now, venue later, right? And then you start to go down the list of all the tree things, that branches that will happen as a base of what you decide to do. And then in the corporate space, they actually assign probability of profit, probability that this will work, probability of that. So it's a very like technical thing that can be made very simple. So for me, my decision tree is like it could be like right now, writing a book. Write a book now, write a book later. Write a book now involves getting a publisher or self-publishing, making a decision there. 10 days of focused writing or 10 weeks of focused writing. Kickstarter. Then Kickstarter, go down here. All right, Kickstarter equals a lot of time getting rewards, a lot of time making sure that I am posting, a lot of time things. And of course, so you can see one branch goes all over the place. And then of course, there's the other branch. Okay, decision not to write a book now. So if I decide not to write a book now, what does that decision look like? Okay, well, that means what else am I going to do? Okay, more videos, or okay, I'm going to work more on this, or I'm going to work on this. Okay, which means that. Okay, I hope I'm elaborating on this. I see you here over here on Facebook or YouTube. Oh, Facebook. So if you're talking to me there on Facebook, I'm sorry I can't see your name. But let me go ahead and put this in so you guys can see who is talking And that way, why is this not showing? All right, here we go. Let's at least show where you guys can. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So if you wrote that, please let me know that you're here so that I can kind of figure out what your name is. And I don't want to just call you Facebook user. So hopefully I'm elaborating on this. So this is where the decision tree makes a lot of sense because you can visually see what you are deciding between and the options and the results. Now, of course, you can't tell the future, but if you actually look at, okay, if I decide to write a book now, and the topic, by the way, my friend over here on Instagram is decision making, creative decision making, how to decide where to go, what to do, when to do it. And we're talking about decision trees as an idea of like a way to visualize a decision. So again, branches are the individual possibilities of each decision, yes or no, and you're basically making a flow chart. Okay. Now, the reason why I really like this, I wish could write it right now, but I don't have a whiteboard. I love this because it makes it obvious. Hey, you got two or three different directions that make a whole bunch of other things happen. So your decisions make decisions. Because if you say yes to this, you say no to this, and you say no to everything on that other side. And if you say yes to this, you say yes to everything on the other side. And there's no way that you could say yes to this or to say no to the branches. So then you say, oh, wow, if I say yes to this and it visualizes it, you can see all the different things that are going to happen as a result of that one decision of yes, I'm going to do X, or yes, I'm going to write this song, or yes, I'm going to move with this person, or yes, I'm going to, this works for any decision clearly, but I'm kind of talking about more in terms of musicians, creatives, freelancers. Yes, I'm going to I'm going to take this deal, and of course, prayer, by the way, let's start with prayer. All right. Should have started there, but prayer followed by examining your options. Okay. That to me is where I felt so much more comfort in the decisions I made creatively, even though I made some really bad ones and I made some wrong ones. This does not mean you're not going to make bad decisions. It just means that you'll have a format and a formula of where and why and how to make the decision. So we covered the why you make the decision because it has to align with your priorities. How to make the decision. This is the decision tree. Okay. And then, of course, what the decision will be, that's on you and that's on your options that come out of the why and the how. So once you have the why and the how, now you can have the what. What am I going to do? I'm going to do whatever works best for that particular situation. And I'm not going to look ahead. I'm not going to get too worried about everything happening according to plan, because one of the biggest problems that creatives have is analysis paralysis. So when we have analysis paralysis, I want to write that down because I like that term. I don't know if you guys have heard of analysis paralysis, but that's when you spend all your time thinking and you never move forward. Okay, so it's better to actually, I think, move forward making the wrong decision, or at least one that you may feel like you're going to regret, than making no decision, because making no decision is a decision. And I've faced that. I'm an overthinker. And so when you overthink and you don't spend time really thinking through your decisions, you end up with neither success and you don't have a failure. You just have status quo. And that is nowhere where you want to stay. So I'm advising all of my friends and creatives here in the God and Gigs community, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Okay. Now there's more about this in the podcast that just came out. The Creative Checkup podcast. So basically a very similar discussion, but I spent a lot more time elaborating on this. So that's here at godandgigs.com/135. Okay. Put too many slashes. There we go. All right. So if you want to go check that out, it's also, of course, on all podcast networks, God and Gigs, the God and Gigs show. Just look for that on every podcast network. You'll see the God and Gigs show. We've also got episodes that just came out with the first of the 7 service steps, which is staying connected to God, to your family, to your faith, to your church. All of that is in the first one. And then, of course, we've got some other interviews that we've been sharing, some great interviews with before. We had Ulysses Owens Jr., Tobias. You got your Jacksonville connection there, with an incredible drummer who's a Juilliard professor and also has toured and worked with everyone and is a Grammy winner. He was on the podcast back about a month ago. as well as our interview with Tobias. Tobias, we have your interview there as well. And that came out a little earlier. And we have new interviews, as I mentioned, coming up with Jordan Rayner and some other great people that I'm going to be talking to in the next few weeks and sending those interviews out. Also, Jimmy and Devon of Uncompromising Coaches, two amazing entrepreneurs, African American brothers of mine that I really appreciate their message and how they're helping business people and people to think like businesses and go after their mission and their purpose in an uncompromising way. That episode's going to be coming out pretty soon. So please go follow and subscribe to the God and Gig Show. It is really honestly my love letter to creatives every week. It's a love letter to you guys to help you build a better life that you should be living. And I do it a lot more consistently than sometimes I do these videos. These videos should come out every week. They do not, but I'm working on that. Okay, so please go check out the God and Gig Show. Episode 135 is a further discussion of decisions, how to make the best decisions for your career. So I'm going to review it, and then we're going to ask any questions. Anybody that has anything to share, I'd like to get you in and out. I actually got to get to a event in the next couple of minutes, and my wife will be asking me why I haven't changed yet. So if there's any questions, anything that you're facing in terms of decisions, how to make the decision, how to deal with the decision, how to get prayerfully, get some counseling or get some information, because the Bible says in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. So if there's anything that you want to share in the next couple of minutes, go ahead and share it in the comments and I will answer the question. We'll jump into that. Oh, and let me tell you quickly, I have a webinar coming up. I have a webinar coming up on October 24th. We just did one on Thursday and didn't really talk about it much. So that's kind of my fault if you didn't know about it. But October 24th, I'm doing another workshop, a masterclass on how to overcome the three biggest issues you are facing as a creative. Those three big issues: hesitation, frustration, isolation. If you're dealing with hesitation, frustration, or isolation as a creative, you need to be registered for that at godandgigs.com/masterclass. Okay, that's going to come up on Sunday. I think I have it scheduled for 8:15, and you have to register. That will not be available to everyone. It's only for people who are signing up here at godandgigs.com/masterclass. I can literally never spell my own thing, and I wish I could put it on Instagram at the same time, but I can't because I can't go to different places. But yeah, so check that out, godandgigs.com/masterclass if you want to sign up for that webinar masterclass on how to overcome the three biggest challenges you're facing. I'm telling you, everybody that has come to this masterclass has felt like they could run through a wall afterward. I feel like I could run through a wall after these masterclasses because it's like, oh my gosh, I can do this. This is not just something that I'm doing on my own. I have somebody that is really seeing the way that we have to live through this creative life and not feel like we're getting stuck and struggling all the time. So I really want to help you guys with that. Okay. So that is what's coming up on Sunday, the 24th. Let me get it here just so it pops up there. Yeah, godandgigs.com/masterclass. Okay, I'll make sure there's a link also on Instagram for those of you who are watching. Mickey Platt, Mick Keys, good to see you, brother. Awesome to see you, man. I can't tell who else is watching here on Instagram, but if you have joined us, thank you for joining me for the Creative Checkup. I gave you all the announcements. No questions popped up. So I will go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. This, again, is my love letter to creatives. Every week I do a podcast. I'll do a video more often. If you're watching on YouTube, please sign up, subscribe, hit the notifications so that you can be a part and get more creative inspiration and encouragement from creatives just like you who want to build a better life from the inside out. Instagram, thanks for following me. Thanks for staying connected with me. Here, YouTube, Facebook, and the creative community. Thank you guys for staying connected. Again, you do my heart good just by being here, by pursuing the gift that God put in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're inside a church or not. If you are inside a church, clearly working inside a church, that's awesome. And that continues to help build the kingdom. But you do so as well in your creative exploits outside of the church. It doesn't matter as long as you are trying to build the kingdom and following God. He can redeem everything you're doing outside of the church and he will use it for his glory. That's my message to you. You succeed as a musician and a creative without sacrificing your faith. Okay? So I hope you are being blessed by these calls, blessed by all the information we're putting out there. The webinar, please sign up for it. The masterclass. And I don't know why I start clapping or emphasis, but that's just what I do. And I appreciate you guys. We're right around 6 o'clock, so that went well. Oh no, I don't want to sign up now because I just saw Ari made new come in. Ariel, good to see you. I wish I could hang on just a little longer because I was literally signing off. We got to connect. I actually need to get you on the podcast, my dear. You're here on. By the way, she's here on Instagram. I'm getting my people on the podcast, and we need to get you on there. So thank you for even jumping in for a second because now you've seen that, and I can reach out to you and let's get your story on the podcast because I really want to get my crew and my creatives really all to be represented there. But we will do that offline. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this creative checkup. It's been fun. This was really cool. I'm going to try to make sure I'm here every Friday. And if I'm not, call me out on it. Okay. Say, hey, where's the creative checkup? All right. Make sure that you are there as well. Thank you. God bless. And